Hey everybody, welcome to a very special IDEO video. Today we are going to dive inside the makings of a disc golf shoe, and specifically our Secrecy disc golf shoe. For those of you that have stumbled upon this channel who aren't aware of who we are, IDEO Sports manufactures and designs shoes specifically for disc golf. And so we are going to take a closer look at how our flagship Syncrasy is made. And today I have with me David from Arlan Sourcing. David is our new manufacturing partner as of 2025. And we've been working through the process of creating our version 2 of our flagship Syncrasy. And we're really excited to be partnering with David. He brings a lot of experience and professionality to our product and specifically our manufacturing process. So David, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to be here. I love being able to talk about what I get to see, what a lot of people don't get to see, and kind of explain the nuances and some of the things that you might not really know what goes into making a shoe. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Yes, and I've been, since being in the footwear business, learning a ton as we go, and there's practices that I see in here too that are unfamiliar to me, so I'm going to be learning a lot from you as well. How long have you been
Nice.
doing this? How long have you been in the footwear manufacturing industry?
Yeah, so I've been doing this for over 10 years now. So relatively to some people that I know, I would be considered what's called a shoe pup, not a shoe dog. It's a work in progress. But yeah, no, I came into footwear as part of a family business actually. So my parents, they've been doing shoes for 40 plus years. I've learned from the best. My dad, he's done Brooks running when they were a much smaller company. He's also been a big part of K-Swiss and their growth. And where I came in was when ultra running just had an idea for zero drop running shoes. And so we worked with them and brought the whole concept, brought it to life to the market. So it's been a really great experience. So far, I plan on doing this for as long as I can, but yeah, no, I love it. I love everything about what this job requires and what it entails. And even for me, I'm still learning every day, honestly, because there's new technologies and new processes, new materials. It's just, you don't ever stop learning. So I'm happy to share what I have learned so far with you guys.
Yeah, awesome. We are in an age of development and technology, I feel like. And there are new, like you said, just new materials popping up left and right, and you're always learning. And I think shoe dog is more of a mindset, and I would say you're definitely a shoe dog when it comes to that.
That's very kind of you. I think my parents would think otherwise, but no, honestly, if anything, my dad, he would be a shoe dog for sure. There's a lot of aspiration towards that for sure.
I've never met your dad. I haven't met him yet, but I would certainly love a dinner at your place to just hear the stories. Sounds like it would be an awesome experience.
Oh man, that would be even for me, because there's some stories that he just brings up and like, I've never heard that story before. But he's been there. He's whatever you can think of for footwear development or manufacturing. He's done it for the good and definitely the bad as well. So
well, that's good. We need to know where both sides come from to be prepared in this business.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I thought a good point to dive in here on the making of the Syncrasy is our booty. And we have a video from our most recent production here of our inner booty, which is comprised of different materials, one of those being our waterproof membrane. This is a waterproof shoe, so it's kind of cool because we get to see how that is different as well.
Yep.
So I'm going to play this video a little short video of this is one of your factories, and this is your factory in Surabaya, Indonesia.
Surabaya, in Indonesia, correct.
Yeah, and I was so impressed just right off the bat with this factory in particular, because before working with you, we've seen factory videos, and it is they're so well organized. The factory's so clean, the equipment is so clean, everybody's super organized, and I was just highly impressed with this facility. So,
Yeah, good, good.
yeah, and so I can't wait to go one day. Let's go ahead and get into this one.
Yeah, so I mean, part of this is called a booty construction. So there's really two types of waterproofing that you can do. One is what Gore-Tex does, and that's a membrane construction. But this is a booty construction. So what you do is you create this booty-like, part of the shoe, and then you stitch it all together. And then what he's doing here is he's actually sealing the stitch lines. If you don't seal the stitch lines, because there's many perforations when you stitch, it doesn't become waterproof anymore. And so the whole point of a booty is that you don't need to use the membrane, because over time the membrane can deteriorate, or it degrades a little bit, versus this construction. This is like a permanent waterproof construction that doesn't fade, because it's stitched and then sealed.
Okay.
So it's a lot more, I would say, it's more dependable, but it just feels a little bit different than wearing like a running shoe, because you're wearing a booty pretty much, right? So that's kind of the end result. Yeah. So the seal goes on, and then at
So
that
this
point
is
that
like
thing is
seam taping, and I think some people might be familiar with that in in their outerwear. If you take a look at a rain shell or something like that, if it's truly waterproof, it'll have seam taping on it like this,
Yes.
just to protect where the stitch lines are from getting any water in. Correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah. So kind of what I was mentioning earlier with the two different types of waterproofing. It just really comes down to how you want the end construction to be. And relative to your shoes, this was the most, I would say, efficient way to go, versus the membrane. Because membrane over time, maybe when you're on the course, and maybe you're wearing it, and to the max, and it's just being beaten up or whatever the case, it can lose the waterproof over time. But this, it will never lose its waterproofness.
That's cool. And so with like a Gore-Tex membrane, you're saying that they don't create an inner sock, inner booty like this?
No, because it's kind of like a tri-layer. So if you kind of think about what you see on the outside, that's kind of the top layer. And then the liner of when you put your foot into the shoe, that's what you feel. So there's a liner, and then there's the exterior shell, and right in between that, that's where you put the waterproof membrane.
Cool.
So it's laminated, actually.
Yeah.
So it's when you laminate something, there's always this thought of, okay, how long is this going to last? Because if you even think about some products, maybe it's a shirt, like apparel, there's a lot of things that are laminated or pressed on with heat, and over time that starts to fall apart, right? Whether you're for a shirt or whatever, you put it through the washing machine and it starts to peel off. That can happen with a shoe as well if it's laminated. And so when you stitch something, that's a bit more permanent. So
See, okay, yeah, that makes a ton of sense that way, because you see a lot of times where like logos will start to crack, and then they'll start to peel and break down.
yeah, it's like the embroidery version of apparel to footwear. If you
Right.
stitch it, it's gonna be there forever.
Right. Okay. Cool. See, I'm learning. Awesome.
Good. Yeah, that's good.
Let's take it to our next one then, which So that's a good transition to our next factory video, which actually shows the outer shell of the upper, which I'll let you kind of explain how, because this is also laminated and there's some different things going on here. And I thought this would be very cool to show, because I was watching this with Rosie, which is also a laminated construction. And I think a lot of people don't realize that the shoe itself, before it's formed into something that fits around your foot, it's this flat piece of material, and everything's laminated that needs to go into that upper, and then it's shaped and formed. So I thought this would be a cool little short to show how that happens.
Yeah, let's see what they're doing here. Oh yeah, okay. So I mean, they're just adding cement to the inside there, and it looks like they're gonna apply. That's where they're gonna laminate the booty to. And so yeah, I mean, kind of touching on what you were saying, when it comes to footwear, obviously it's a 3D product, right? But when you design the upper, the top part of the shoe, you really have to think 2D and then how it translates into 3D. And so for a lot of manufacturing processes, you have to design it in a way it's like, okay, well, I have to be able to do this in a 2D plane in order for it to be represented in a 3D result, right? So oftentimes when you're designing a shoe aesthetically, you have to be able to understand from a manufacturing perspective that there's limitations to, like, if you want something done on a shoe, can it be done in a 2D format? And if not, then it's probably not going to work. So then, you have to go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, well, does this work from a 2D in order for it to be 3D?
Right.
So that's one of the major challenges with footwear development is, oftentimes when you work with like a designer or like a creative person, and you can draw any kind of shoe, you can make it look awesome, but if we can't make it work in a 2D way, it's never gonna be produced into a 3D product.
Right.
So that's kind of, you can actually see it here.
Yeah, here's a better video of what you're talking about, referring to it looking 2D, because it's a flat template.
Exactly. Yeah. So when you design something, especially, so this shape specifically, we have what's called a shell pattern. So in footwear development, the shell pattern just represents what the entire upper looks like from a 2D perspective. And so oftentimes, you want to have the full view of the flat pattern for you to be able to see, okay, how do I design this shoe? But then the challenge is, okay, is this going to look good when it's like when it forms into a 3D
when
product?
you actually form it and shape it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the challenge with designing it. And so you're always constantly, when you're designing, even revising an existing style, it's like, okay, I still always need to think of it from, okay, can I do this in a 2D way? And then can it turn into that 3D product as well? So there's always that challenge.
Yeah, it's a balance, right? Because I know the first time when I launched the Syncrasy for the very first time, I had my own sketches and design ideas, but I didn't know from a manufacturing standpoint what can be done to a shoe and what can't be done. We have big dreams, and then a lot of times we have to sort of trim that down into reality. And so when I submitted my concepts to our design house for the first time, that was a big learning experience, because that was the first time having this process explained to me, from a 2D world, how are we going to bring that into a 3D product? And there's some things that can and can't happen, but It's also a fun challenge to figure out how to work around certain things, you know, either
Yeah.
aesthetically or from a performance standpoint.
Y-
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, you pretty much nailed it. When you said trimming it to reality, that is that is taking concept to prototyping. That is the theme of that phase. Is just you need to trim the creative to the reality, because you also have to think of it in terms of the manufacturing limitations, because at the end of the day, it's the machines that do most of the work, right? Because
Yeah.
you have the operators, and they're trained to do that specific, they're trained for that equipment specifically. But the machines are the limitations to be
Yes.
able to produce a specific design.
Right.
So if you design something, where it's just like, we just don't have a machine that can do that. Um, and so then you have to be, we have a machine that can do this, we have a machine that can do this. So like, with those in mind, is there something that we can design that looks the way that you want, but then we can still do it with the machines that we have?
Yeah.
So that's it. That's that trimming to the reality part. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
And that brings up another point as well, you know, is having the equipment to produce the reality. And something that working with you over this last year has also been able to bring to the table is that we've got access to better equipment. And when it comes to, I don't think people realize the difference between like a leather shoe factory from a lifestyle shoe factory to a performance shoe factory, is that each factory is equipped with different sets of equipment to produce that end product. And being in your sport specific factories and having access to the equipment that, you know, I need or we need as a brand to produce the product that we can envision is so important. And it's been such a key had such a key role to our version 2 of the Secrecy, and being able to take this existing product and just level it up just from a performance or from a manufacturing standpoint,
Yeah.
just
I mean,
by
you,
having
you're right.
access
Yeah.
to your facilities.
Yeah. I mean, to add to that point, you're absolutely right. That's the reason why factories, for the most part, they focus on a specific type of shoe. Like a leather shoe factory, they won't make casual shoes because they're not going to they're not going to invest in machines necessary to make a casual shoe versus a leather shoe. Because for a leather shoe, we'll get to this because you actually have this process in your shoe as well. But for toe and heel lasting, you need to do that for leather shoes, and I'll explain the reason why maybe later on. But for most casual shoes, creating the upper, you have what's called a strobel board, and so you have a specific machine to be able to do the strobel boarding. But then you don't need that machine for leather shoes.
Right.
So that's one part, and then the second part too is that the operator themselves, they kind of stick to where they are the most efficient in terms of being able to do it well and also provide a decent output, because at the end of the day, the factory makes money by output because their overhead and their expenses, they're fixed. So the more shoes that they can pump out, the more, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like from a business perspective,
Right,
it's
of
really, at the end of the day, the factory just wants to make the same shoe. Their goal is to make one shoe, one colorway,
Yeah.
a billion pairs, right? Because
Efficiency.
when you exactly, because it's more about the output for factories. And so when a factory tries to do too much, they not only produce not as great output,
Right.
or you know what I mean, like the end result shoes, they are lesser quality from a construction and a durability and all these things, but they're also losing money. And so factories love to just focus on a specific type of shoe, and stick with it. And so when it comes to your shoes, we had to put you in something in a source or a factory that is able to keep the efficiency of from keeping the quality high, but also being able to produce that output for the factory's benefit as well. So there's always that balance as well.
Yeah, and that's insanely difficult to find those two things together. Uh, High quality, high efficiency. With we're a smaller brand, so with lower output, and that's an extremely difficult thing to do and to find. And another reason why we're so grateful for you and what you're able to do with our smaller brand, by providing those factors for us, allowing us to serve our community and our market, while also giving us the tools we need to grow into the higher volume. So that's been awesome.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at our next little video slide here. So in this next slide, we're going to see something that we might notice is missing from our flat upper templates, and that is the tongue, because the tongue is sort of its own piece that needs to be reattached. So I wanted to sort of share this as well, because this is another part of the shoe that is sort of like auxiliary to the upper itself, because it's constructed separately and it needs to be attached. And I thought it was kind of cool to see what correct me if I'm wrong, but this is our tongue gusset, which also is helping our shoe stay waterproof.
Yeah, one thing to note as well, you're right on your points, is that gusset is specific to your shoe, and you can actually see there's a UV light that they use. There's a lot of stitching. They're not just guessing where to stitch. So a lot of prep work goes into making sure that they put lines with UV markers.
Yep.
And so yeah, exactly. So when you bring it to the light, you can I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it in the video, but you can see the UV light turning on. It'll show that operator exactly where to stitch, and every component has that, and you'll see that later on as well. But it's every piece that needs to be stitched or lined up, it'll always have a UV marker, and the benefit of that is you can't see it. So that's, it doesn't stain the shoe or anything like that. But those are one of the things that just makes sure that every shoe is made exactly how it needs to be.
That's cool. All the prep work that goes in before they even start.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, there's just a machine that literally just draws on every piece, and it says, hey, you need to stitch here, you need to stitch here. So it takes, that part in itself, the prep work, is a lot of work, just to make sure that the shoe is, because you have to break it apart to see how all the components are supposed to be cut and stitched, and then you have to just basically put it back together the exact same way.
It's the consistency is key, right? I mean, consistency is
exactly
key to
right.
a Michelin star restaurant as much as it is to a repeatable, dependable product.
That's pretty much it. The UV marker is just part of a recipe to keep everything consistent. Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's cool. All right, so that was a really cool, quick one. And I think, there's one more piece of machinery here that I would love people to see, because this was new for me, and this is also just another way that you are creating consistency in your product. So it's a perfect segue to that. So tell us what we are looking at here.
Oh, perfect timing.
Yeah.
That's a UV marker machine. Yep. So in this case, I think for this one, we just wanted to show you what the process looks like. So for this piece itself, this is actually marking the Strobel stitch lines, which isn't used for your shoe. But this is to give you an idea that a lot of the things that need to be done with precision are used with machinery like this, whether it's to do the UV markers. A lot of cutting nowadays too is a lot more efficient, especially for like laser cutting, is done with machines. And the benefit with laser cutting is that oftentimes with die cuts, which is kind of like the cookie cutter, old school stuff, if you cut some materials like mesh or polyester, it doesn't clean the edges and it can fray. So a benefit of laser cutting is that heat kind of seals the edges as it cuts. So it just improves the overall end quality of the component. So
as
it doesn't
as
like
that
start
laser
fraying.
is like coming through the
exactly.
edge and cutting that material out, it's also at the same time cauterizing it as well, right? So your materials don't split and fray.
Exactly. Yeah.
Super cool.
So it's like like kind of what I mentioned at the beginning. It's just these little things that, it really adds up to the overall quality of the end product. And so, but this machine is for that UV marking. So this is a very important machine to have.
That's awesome. I was stoked to see this, and it like stood out, and I had to text you and be like, hey, tell me about this really quick. What's going on here?
Yeah. So this machine looks very similar to the laser cutting one as well. It's just like this big thing, and it's all automated, so it's all consistent. So it's a lot of, putting the shoe together is a lot of manual, because you have to line things up properly and stitch and stuff. But a lot of the prep work, like the cutting, doing the UV lines and stuff, a lot of it is done by machine. So then when you do it manually, the end result's all is all the same because of the prep work.
Yeah. And it stood out to me a little bit as well, because I'm coming from the manufacturing world myself, not in footwear, but I used to have to program laser cutters. And so when I see this program here, I know that this is being laid out in a way that is maximizing efficiency and also reducing the amount of waste going into that cutting as well. So
exactly.
Super cool piece of equipment. Well, we're gonna step over to the meat and bones of this whole process, and that is this whole assembly lasting line here.
There we go.
This is cool. I was really glad that Max, your factory rep and liaison, was able to get this whole process for us, because it really shows just the organization again of the factory, but also it's really cool to watch the shoe turn into basically what we just looked at, which was a 2D flat pattern into a 3D product. It's going to happen here before our eyes. And if we need to stop on anything, just say stop. I'll stop it. We can talk about it.
Yeah, sounds good. You can actually just stop here. And so this is the beginning of the lasting process. So, I mean, that yellow foot looking thing right there, that's called a last. And in order for you to last the top part, we call it, the upper part, with the bottom part, we call it the bottom unit. You need to have the last in order to bond it exactly how it needs to be. So this is step one, and obviously the most important part is getting it into the shoe itself. So if you can actually see the guy on kind of the top left, he's doing it upside down. That's just how you do it. It's very difficult to get a last into the shoe. Kind of the right side up. You got to flip it, because you can pull the back heel. You might be able to see it when the video runs, but everyone kind of uses a shoehorn to like really stretch the back and then slide it over the heel part there. So that's going into the shoe.
And for a lot of people,
you like a little scooper shoehorn kind of thing, so that he really pulls and then just yanks it right over the back heel to get a nice tight fit there.
And we want a tight fit. Any extra material, anything that's like loose around that last, probably indicates that upper wasn't stitched together correctly or something shifted, right? So we want a nice tight fit to this last. And for those that aren't familiar with what a last is, this isn't just a universal piece of equipment shaped like a foot. This is a very, very important part of the development process. When we were developing our Syncrasy shoe, a lot of thought went into just this piece of equipment right here, because the last is what not only determines how the shoe fits the foot and the user, it also determines how the shoe performs in its retrospective sport or activity, and it also determines how the shoe looks. So there's a lot of consideration that goes into just this piece of equipment here, and if this is shaped slightly different, it's going to look, perform, and feel different. So it's very, very important for a brand to nail this down before they even start production or start finalizing design elements, or whatever it might be, because this is going to change. This is the heart of the shoe to me. It's going to change and determine everything.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, without that, I mean, if you don't put a lot of thought and effort into creating that part, the last, no matter how good the shoe looks, no matter if the shoe lasts forever, the best quality in the world, if you put it on and it just doesn't feel right, I mean, what's the point?
Yeah.
So yeah, that is by far the most important. Yes.
Yep. So this is very specific to the Syncrasy right here, and why it does what it does, and why it feels the way it feels.
Yep. Yeah, just scooping that right back there. There you go. You can actually see the booty underneath the that white part underneath the black shell there.
Yeah.
So when you're lasting it for your shoe specifically, it's actually going into the waterproof booty. That white part there, just like from what we saw earlier when that stitched and sealed booty. So that's it in the shoe.
So we have that stitched and sealed booty, then we have the black upper construction that's been
on top.
That's been thrown on top of that, and so now we're layering up our product, and now that whole thing is being wrapped around our lens.
Exactly. You got it. All right, so this first part here, you can actually see, if you stop right there, that's actually a good view right there. So there's two things here. One, the lady on the left with the purple apron, I think, if you go a little bit more. Yeah, like right there's good. So the lady in the purple apron right there, she's tying the laces really tight. So part of lasting to what, going off. Yeah. Part of what you're just saying is that you have to make things really, really tight. And one of the things with lasting is that you have to tie the laces really tight. But oftentimes when you tie the laces too tight, it can cause, the upper to maybe look a little bit more used, and because the shoes have to look new when you sell them and stuff. And so you can actually see a white piece underneath the laces there. So when you tie it really tight, the tension goes onto that white piece, and it actually doesn't go onto the tongue itself. So it doesn't form any lines, and it just keeps the shoe upper looking clean. So that's just like one little thing. And then the lady with the pink apron, I guess, the red apron with the green shirt, that yellow piece, that yellow foot-looking piece, that's the lasting board. And because of our construction for the shoe, we use a lasting board instead of what I talked about earlier, that Strobel piece. It's just a different construction, but I'll let you know where that piece goes as it goes on. But what she's putting on there is cement, rubber cement. So she's just applying it there, and then they're going to put the shoe and the rubber cement piece, the lasting board, through the heat, and that just activates the rubber cement.
Yeah, it's like priming it, and then it goes through the heat. This is an oven right here, basically. So we can watch it go right through that.
You'll actually also notice that everyone wears the same colored shirts, and some people just have different colored shirts as well. It indicates where they're supposed to be working. Yes. So that's one thing to keep an eye on as well.
And something noticed, pink shirts, correct me if I'm wrong, this is QC.
QC, you got it. So pink shirts are QC. So at every point, there's always a pink shirt to make sure that everything's being applied properly and things. So pink shirts are very important.
Very important. They're our best friends.
They're your best friend for the end result. Yeah. So if you see a pink shirt, you know that your shoes are being looked after at each point as well. So
and another thing that I was just loving, because I saw that right away, and you'll see them throughout the whole process. And I'll say that our previous factories, despite us having third-party quality control, despite me going out and searching for QC companies to come into our factories and oversee this whole process, still I didn't get this much QC servicing through the whole thing. So
yeah, I mean, part of what we do, I mean, what my end does is, aside from, because the pink shirts, they're factory QC, so they're directly with the factory. These pink shirts basically QC for everybody in the factory, so you guys and whoever else that they make as well. But we have our own QC as well, so we work in tandem with their QC team just to make sure. So relative to this production run, hey, for this IDEO shoe, you need to keep an eye out for these things and these things. So we actually teach the QC team how to QC our shoes specifically. And
that's a meeting that you and I had too, is before production, is making sure that we address things from our past warranties, to say, for me to say, hey David, make sure the QC team is looking after these specific points, because we know that this is a particular point of high stress or whatnot. And so I can convey that from a brand standpoint to you as the manufacturer, and then you convey that to your QC team, and now we have a very chiseled out system that's looking after our product specifically.
Yeah, and one of the things too that you mentioned, with the third party QC, who's not affiliated with you and who's not affiliated with the factory, they just kind of come in, and it's a very tough situation. That's a lot different than our setup, because we work directly, and I basically answer to you. You're essentially my boss in kind of the whole setup, making sure that the shoe turns out the develops properly and also turns out the way that it needs to be. I take the accountability for any issues that pop up, because I have to manage the QC for you on the manufacturing end. So if something goes wrong, I'm able to be like, hey dude, I'm so sorry, we will remake X amount of pairs based on something that went wrong. Because there's always kind of like this, we have this rule of a like 3% defect rate. That's kind of like a golden manufacturing rule, that usually about 3% of shoes there's always going to be a little bit of, maybe there's like the laces, or maybe it got pulled out, or whatever the case may be. But then at least I can take care of that.
Yeah.
The difficulty with a third party is that if there are issues, they're not going, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so you can't go back and take it back to the QC to back that up and submit your warranty for the next run to make it better, or to convey that to them for the next process, so that they're building a database, because they're not as attached to the product, right?
Exactly, yeah. And then also, it's very easy to finger point and say, hey, your QC team didn't let us know about this, and then the factory's like, no, like this. So it just delays any remedy.
Yeah.
And for us, it's like, okay, you told us something's wrong, let's just take care of it.
Yeah.
And then we can just keep moving.
Yeah.
So then that way it benefits your shoes, you guys, and then you guys can just keep doing what you guys are doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love it. It's so important to build these relationships, and these are the reasons why you're training people on your product, and the more you work with it, the more you learn about it, and the better it gets. So
yeah, exactly. And that's the same with us. We're learning to make sure that your shoes always turn out better than before, and we're always learning how to make it better too.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, so this part here, that came out of the we call it the oven.
Yeah.
And so after it comes out of the oven, you can actually see, so actually the green and the pink right in front of us, the camera I think will pan out to where they are putting the lasting board on the bottom of the shoe. And so yeah, if you keep kind of going there, you can see maybe,
Because we have the lasting board here now, and
yeah,
that's
so at
been
this,
prepped and glued.
yeah, and so they glue it to the bottom of the shoe down
And
here.
then,
Oh, there we go.
bam.
You can see it right there.
Yep.
Yeah. So the lasting board is now on the bottom of the shoe, and this lasting
that's
board,
there because that material is being wrapped around our last, which we saw previously, but now it needs something to attach to.
exactly, yeah. So it's at the bottom of the shoe, and it's basically like a point of insertion for the upper to be able to be wrapped around. Yeah, that's exactly right. It needs to be there. Otherwise, there's nothing for it to wrap around and adhere to. So, and then after this point, it will shoot back into the oven, and then it'll just, actually, I think that part is the cooling. So the first part's the heat, the second part's the cooling, because the cooling sets the lasting board on the bottom, and then that way it stays there. So yeah, so
now it's hot, everything's soft, the glue is very tacky, it's been primed, and now that the board's gone in there, and you can see she's attaching the board to the upper. Everything's hot, it's going to go through here now that it's all sticky, right? And then it's going to cool it.
Yeah. Actually, no, I think she's applying more cement. So the first round she applied cement to attach to the shoe, and now she's applying the cement on the other side, because now that's going to be the part that's going to be, so actually they're both heat. I thought it was cooling, but no, it's actually both heat, because they're applying the cement on the other side now as well.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so applying more glue on the bottom there now. And then it'll get cooked in the oven. Oh, that's a lot of glue. That's good.
I was gonna say I kind of love seeing all that go on.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. So then there you go. All right. So here is what we call toe lasting. And so
this is awesome.
Basically the machine grabs all the materials in the front of in the toe area, and this is the part where you said where it wraps to the bottom here. So this is the machine specifically just for the toe lasting.
Yeah.
So you'll see what that looks like.
We'll see also on this side of her is the heel lasting machine, so we can go
exactly.
Right through that
yeah.
process. And
so just to let you know why we use toe lasting, because there's really two. I don't want to say that. There's not two different ways to last. There's really only one way, but it just depends on the shoe and what it requires. So for your shoe, because of the material, we need to make sure that it doesn't have any wrinkles and it's really pulled nice and tight so everything is nice and smooth. So for that specific material, the toe lasting just makes it look really clean, really smooth.
Yeah.
And this is the same technique for leather shoes as well, for toe lasting and for heel lasting.
For leather, yeah. And so
to make it nice and tight, right?
Yeah, do it separately so that you're just isolating those areas, right? And making sure it's all tight.
Yeah, exactly. Because you want to pull it from the front, make sure it's nice and tight there, and then you pull it from the back to make sure it's nice and tight in the back. Exactly.
And I'll say, we've gone through so much as a brand from our start as being a launch through Kickstarter company and having to work with factories that will just take us basically with our lower MOQs. MOQ is minimum order quantities, so small brands, small MOQs, and it's hard to get factory space with small MOQs. And so now having better equipment, better access to factories has been just incredible. And a lot of this right here, this lasting process on previous runs of shoes, like when you go through like one generation of shoe and then next year you have another order, just different orders specifically, like this run of shoes feels and fits different from this run of shoes. Why is that? And a lot of times it comes down to this lasting process right here, Because if everything is not pulled down nice and tight around the last in a uniform way, run after run after run, consistency again, you're going to
Yeah.
have different feeling, different fitting shoes, even though they're being stretched around the same last.
Yeah.
And the consistency with our product so far now with you is just, it's so much better. And I can say, just trying the shoes myself versus other pairs from even our samples, having just the same fit shoe after shoe after shoe, it just gives you peace of mind knowing that knowing you're going to get what you're expecting to get.
I mean, that's at the end of the day, it's almost like footwear for dummies, right? It's like every shoe should just feel the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, it really comes down to factory management, and just being on top of it, right? It's just like any well-run company. A factory is a company. And if the employees that are designated to certain jobs and they're not being consistent, or they're not being managed, it doesn't look good at the end.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing for shoes. So management of a factory is very, very important, that they care. So they have sub management team, or not executive teams, but people who are on top of this. And that's, for us, it's one of the more important things when we work with a factory. For me also, as on the manufacturing side, is seeing the involvement of the management. And if they're involved, your shoes are good.
Yeah.
If they're not involved, it doesn't matter how good the workers are, because you can't keep that consistency through management. Yeah.
So important. All right, let's keep going through this here.
Yeah, just watch how it just.
I love it.
And
I love seeing it form. It's so cool.
Yeah, and it's a great machine. It's crazy. Just people just think of these things. They're like, I'm just gonna make this machine.
How do you make this, right?
I just need. Yeah, I mean, that's it. It wasn't. It's not like we. It was out in the wild. It's like, hey, I'm just gonna use this to make it. They have to build it, which is always. It always blows my mind how they're like, wow, I need to make this
tooling.
So yeah, so in this part here, after the toe last, they're just making sure everything's nice and flush. They're like hammering it and making sure they're pressing in all the pieces, making it smooth. You can see she's hammering it with a wrench, which has a flat side, so just to make it really, really smooth in the front toe. And now this is the heel part here, and you can see the pins. Every last has a pin in it too, so they put it on the pin to make sure that it goes. You're not just holding it with your hand.
Yeah.
Every last has a hole at the top where you pin it down. Exactly. Yeah. So then it's consistent every time.
Yeah. This pin will.
That pin right there.
Interface with this hole right here on top of the last.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Any machine that requires the shoe to be held will always have a pin or some type of like cut mold that fits exactly to how the shoe needs to be. So. And then there's the heel, and it just wraps the end right there. So then there you go. It wraps around the lasting board. QC ladies checking it out to make sure. Yep.
And you'll see a lot of times they'll look at product individually, but they also look at product together. And you'll see her do this where she's comparing them to each other, which is also important to make sure that your detail lines and seam lines are in equal position to each other, making sure that materials aren't shifted on that last. Just comparing them side by side to make sure they're equal as well as individually constructed.
Exactly. Yeah, and sometimes it's even as simple as like making sure that you have a left and right shoe. It's like, I'm not gonna. It's sometimes it's simple. Sometimes you never know, man. I've seen everything.
Yeah, here
again. So then after the QC lady says, hey, we're good to go here, that is called a cooling conveyor. So it just goes through, and it's basically just kind of like a big trap where the shoes get cooled, and then it comes down on the other side. Let's see. So then the shoes start here for the bottom unit and the upper to come together now. So like it was almost like phase one
Yep.
is the last thing of the heel and the toe to make sure that everything is good there. So that's phase one, and now we're on phase two, which is putting what we just did and then putting the bottom on, and this is what the shoe will turn out to be.
And you'll hear people talk about upper and lower a lot of times, and that's basically just a shoe's upper is everything we just saw, right? All that material that we just saw, it's being lasted together. That's all the upper, and then the lower is all outsole and midsole. That unit together that gets bind off-site, typically, correct? Unless your mold shop is attached to your upper factory and assembly shop as well. But that all sort of happens in another location, and then all of those bottom units are then shipped to the factory so that they can be assembled to the uppers here, right?
Correct. Yeah. So that process where it gets the midsole and the outsole gets bonded first, that's called stock fitting. So you stock fit out. Yeah. So when it's off-site, oftentimes a factory has the assembly as kind of like the main in-house, and then suppliers usually have a proximity of other suppliers, whether it's the midsole outsole supplier, or maybe some specific treatments like KPU. They'll have a proximity around the assembly factory, and so if I need something done at this treatment, this gets done and then shipped here. If for the outsole midsole stock fitting, that gets done here and then shipped here. So then kind of all these proximity suppliers, they kind of slowly just kind of like, hey, I'm done here, and then everything's here, now we can make the shoe. So that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, that's cool. And so here you see for the first time our bottom unit, and tell us about this board that it's being fitted to, because we'll see this a lot.
So that board, that's actually kind of a it's a mimic of how the upper will sit on the midsole. So that the whole point of this part here, what I mentioned with the UV drawings, that this lady has a very important job. Like, it's one of the most important jobs. She has to put the upper on this part here, and you can see the two those two prongs will press down on top of the shoe once you put it on top of this part. That sets the shoe of how it will cement to the bottom part there, and she needs to draw the border line as a guiding principle for all the workers after to cement up to that line to make sure that everything laminates on the bottom unit to the upper properly. So she has one of the most important jobs. If she doesn't get that right, the shoe doesn't bond properly.
Yeah, that's
so it's a very like, you kind of overlook it, but if she doesn't draw that line properly, the shoe will not be attached properly, because the workers follow the line and make sure that everything gets attached to the line,
right to it, so that everything's consistent and those materials are all sitting and attaching at the correct point.
Exactly. And you'll see later too that when the operators bring the bottom unit to the upper and start to kind of push it together, you'll see they all have UV lines or UV lights to see the lines. And so that lady, so there's all the outsole units there, and it looks like they're cleaning it a little bit here, and matching up the proper sizes. So this is kind of the prep work here. They're kind of cleaning it. The UV light that's over there, that's just to make sure there's no dirt, dust, and you just need to see to make sure that everything's nice and clean. So you don't want to laminate anything that has dirt or anything in it, because the stock fit units, they get done, sent to the factory, and then they're not open until production. So they're just doing a little bit of cleaning just to make sure that it goes. So
it looks like maybe she's got some primer right here or something too that she's maybe prepping that edge with, getting it ready for gluing.
Yep. So every cementing or laminating of the bottom to the upper you usually have 2 applications of primer, heat activated priming, because if you just use cement, it's not strong enough.
Yeah, right.
You need to you need to have
surface.
primer to it like amplifies the cementing, and so you'll see in your process that there are 2 applications of primer and then 1 cement before everything's put together.
Yeah, it's super important.
Yeah. And so you can see that she has the UV light, and she's just basically following the line that first lady that drew. She's just following that line.
Right. Yeah. That lady with the very important job. That line she made. Yeah.
By far, honestly, arguably one of the most important jobs.
And I'm sure she's probably trained into that position.
Exactly. Yeah. Usually just one person.
Yeah.
It's who only does that. And so after the first oven, this is the second primer here. And you'll see that at the bottom, you have the upper, and then this piece will go on top. So she'll apply it, and then she'll just put it on top. Because top and bottom, there's different primers that activate at different temperatures. And so the dual oven allows you to control temperatures. Yes, exactly.
Sweet. That's so rad.
And then this is where the cementing is, and you can see more UV lights to make sure that they are applying the cement properly. And then it goes through the last oven, and then this is where they put it together here. You can see a bunch of tools. They have the UV lights to make sure everything's lining up. And this part's done by hand to make sure that the bottom and the upper is being attached according to the lines. And it's always done by hand to make sure that it follows the line basically perfectly.
Drawn, yeah.
And this part usually takes a bit of time because they need to line it up really well. And after they do it by hand, it gets passed on to the lady on the right over there in front of a machine, and you'll get to see kind of like this final machine press to really just to really bring it together at the very
just to make sure that squeeze out any extra space that might be in there.
Exactly. Yeah, you can see like this guy's been working on this one shoe for like
easily the longest process, right?
yeah. Well, again, if the line's not right and he spends all this time trying to, it just, you know what I mean? Like it's like a domino effect of kind of the quality issues.
There's a very short window to work with it too, so it's like it's got to be perfect because there's no going back after that.
There's no going back. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see him? Did you see him try to reset that?
Yep. Yeah, he has like kind of like a scooper tool, and like really just like gets it. Yeah. So
it's not easy to work that after it's been primed.
Yeah, so this takes a lot of effort to line it up. So if the line's not wrong and he does all that work for nothing, they just throw the shoe out because it's not good. It's like a lot of wasted effort. So here you go. So after lining everything up perfectly, it's machine pressed, like 360 press, just from the bottom, from the top, from the sides, kind of everywhere. And this press typically is about 8 to 10 seconds of a hold press.
Yeah.
The longer the better, but the longer the press, less of an output for the factory, so the cost goes up. So then you kind of have to see like, okay, 8 seconds is good enough. If you do 15, like, is there value in that? Because not necessarily.
Yeah. It
would improve it dramatically, but your cost will go up. So there's always a little bit of kind of figuring out whether it's 8 seconds or 10 or 12.
Yeah.
But every second counts for the output. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Things start stacking up on people, or somebody is left with nothing to do because they're waiting.
Yeah, actually, can you go back real quick? I missed. There's actually a really cool part. So go a little bit forward to this part right here. So, yeah, if you can pause, you can actually see there's 2 ladies here with syringes. And so what these syringes do is it has cement in it. So after the press and all that stuff, it gets passed through. They will just do a double check to make sure that there's there's nothing missing, where maybe they pressed it together, maybe something is kind of
a little gap,
maybe
somewhere.
there's like a little gap or something,
Yeah.
they will just syringe right in and just kind of press it in. And this is like the cleaning up part to make sure that everything is really fully bonded all around the shoe. So the syringe is just kind of, you know, getting in there to make sure that it has enough cement on the areas that matter, and it's like a little touch-up, cement touch-up.
Yeah, I don't know if I should talk about this or not, but internally there's an area on our product where it's right here. You have the midsole, the EVA foam, you have the upper where this TPU print is, and then you have the toe cap here. And so that joining area right there, Rosie is my my partner and also our operations manager. She handles inventory, she puts our orders together, she handles warranty, so she's the whole operational side of IDEO. But internally we have a term for this area right here, and it's the triangle of death, because there's so many materials coming together at this point. And then with our sports specifically, there's a ton of flex that happens up in the toe area, and so that's just been an area that's been a challenge to bond. But this is one of those parts of the process where we can take that final look, and where we talked about earlier with quality control, learning the product, things like that, these are areas where it's so important and vital to our product and to our brand, and working with you and creating these relationships, is that we know that is a sore spot, right, for us. We know that's a difficult area to bond, and this is where we can address it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and honestly, they probably do syringe that area a bit just to give it a little bit of more hold. And so yeah, like you said, you communicate concerns, and then we just apply it during the not just development but also the manufacturing side.
Yeah.
So it looks like that's the cooling as well, and so sometimes they might press a shoe just one more time, just to make sure everything, because after the syringe, you just want to press it one more time. You got the QC lady there, and then the final conveyor, or the cooling conveyor, after everything is put together. So that's the final one, basically the final product. That's it.
We see
this is where it gets delasted. Yeah, it gets unlasted, delasted, unlasted. Yeah, you can actually see it's a machine that does it. Back in the day, it was all done by hand. So like, you see the machine just kind of popping it out.
Yeah.
I was laughing because I was talking to my developer. I just remember the hand delast and just like
just wrenching on this
like,
thing.
oh, it's just so easy.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man.
It looks
so
smooth, but it's not.
Machine
it's
that I've
locked
seen.
in
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Because if you ever try to take a last out of a shoe, it is such a pain. It is so hard, especially because everything's tight, and it's just been cooled, and it's just like, it's so much effort. So I'm not surprised
like it's butter.
that they made a machine for this.
Is this what they had to do to you when you were young and under your dad's wing learning footwear? I bet. Did he stick you on the delaster?
They wouldn't trust me on that for sure.
No,
I mean,
no,
I
manually. They make you manually do it. Yeah. To like.
I'd probably.
Earn your wings.
I've never had to do it on an assembly line, but I've had to for development too, because you have to put the last in, see how it fits, and delast, and so I've had to learn how to. And the hardest part is actually, you know what? I think both are difficult. I don't know which one's harder than the other. I would say. They're both hard.
They're hard.
They're both hard. You need a tool. To do both. They're both hard. But I'm not surprised they did it for. They finally made a machine to get it off. Because it's also very hard.
Yeah, it's compared to the other equipment, it's a pretty simple piece of machinery too.
It's just funny to watch because if you watch like back in the day, it's like it's all done by hand and people are just like struggling, and I mean like not super struggling, but it's an effort. And this one's just just
like it's
makes it look so simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so easy. It's so funny. All right, so then it goes into, yeah, the packaging. So this is where the laces go on, or not the laces go on, but the white piece comes off. They tie the laces, they put all the stocking paper into it and all that stuff, just to make it look pretty. They clean it up, a couple QC inspections as well, just to make sure everything looks good. And then yeah, and then it goes into kind of like this final. I don't even know what to call it, but the shoe goes through it, and it just detects any like metal or anything that would be flagged through shipment.
Oh, it's like
And then it comes out through the,
a magnetic scanner of some kind, huh?
pretty much. It just makes sure that nothing gets left in the shoe that would be flagged.
Yeah.
And then yeah, and then that's it.
Yeah, it goes into
You get,
packaging.
you know,
You can see our boxes back there, and
yep, the
she's
boxes, the stickers go on,
attaching our cool
all
little
that,
keychain that we include.
all that stuff.
Yeah,
That's the
that's
final
awesome.
final touch up. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I wanted to run through this process with you, just to have your insight and explain it, to anybody interested in how a disc golf shoe is made. How sports footwear is done. There's a lot
Yeah.
that goes into it, and we're only seeing like a piece, of the process.
Yep.
This is just what's done mostly during the assembly process of it, not necessarily we have the mold shop, and the whole bottom unit assembly. We saw the upper patterns, before they were lasted, but we didn't see that whole cutting process and printing process and everything. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, there's treatments, there's cutting, there's stitching, like pre-stitching, not just like the but yeah, it's a lot, man. The more complicated the shoe, I mean, your shoe, I would say is more on the complex side for sure, because it needs to be. It's a performative product, so it needs to have specific features for your sport. So the more complex, the more steps for sure.
The materials
You
that
definitely
we
won't.
chose to use in that product, and how we've layered those materials, like, we're thinking about it from from a design aspect, like what is the end user doing with this product, and the selection of all of those. We wanted to use something that doesn't stretch too much. If you look at like the opposite end of what we have, which is a ripstop, that's made to be very durable. It doesn't have a ton of give because, again, it's a performance shoe, and when the foot moves, you need the shoe to react at the same time, right? I mean, that's so important. And then you look at the opposite end of the scale at like a knit shoe, which a lot of people wear in our sport. For some reason, they wear knit shoes, but they don't realize that is so soft. And if you have like a knit mesh, there's a lot of space in between. So you move your foot in that knit mesh, that mesh needs to react first to tighten up, and then the shoe will react. And there's fractions of a second, that all of that has to first tighten up and move and fill that void before the shoe reacts to the player. And there's so much considerations in the performance product. And so from a design standpoint, with us kind of like first figuring out what needs to go into that shoe, and then we hand it to you, and then you can tell us, okay, you're looking at the same problem, and tell us, okay, this is how I think we need to stitch or glue or layer, or however, they're from a construction side, to also achieve that same goal.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of not even just from the material side, but it's even just how the shoe is constructed. Because if you have seams in the wrong place, it could fall apart more quickly because of specific movements of an action. Like when you're throwing the disc, if you have the seam not in an ideal spot, maybe it'll become a hot spot. Maybe because of the torsional force or whatever, the seam might just be, you know what I mean? Like this, so you have to take the performative considerations, and then you have to apply it from a manufacturing perspective of how to make the shoe. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a lot. It really is a lot.
It is. Yeah. I
It
think
really is.
we've kind of we're in a day and age where we've got just awesome machinery like this heel lasting
mm,
equipment that we see here. We've got access to so much knowledge now as well. I mean, you're a product of that. That things run relatively smooth, but we
mm,
forget how much actually goes into everything, every piece of consideration, every stitch, to every um, on a on an employee company level.
yeah.
How big this operation really is.
Yeah, man. Like if you kind of do almost like a family tree kind of diagram, it's like you have a shoe and then you have like just different branches that go to
Yes, yeah,
the assembly, and then under each it's just like it just keeps going and going, and there's just so many intricacies that you have to be aware of.
yep.
Even for like for example with your rubber compound, you know, it has to be
Oh yeah,
uh,
perfect timing. There it is.
it has it, it has to have the grip, it has to be durable, you know, it has to um you know still be flexible enough when you're going through the actions to uh that it doesn't inhibit how you perform. And so the rubber compound is a huge consideration as well, which is its own scientific
Yeah,
process, and because
that's
there's just so
I
much
mean,
that
that's
goes into
chemical
it.
engineering. You know, there's
Yeah,
like base rubber compounds. There's additives that go into that, and then there's treatments of that. Like it's a whole
yeah.
it's a whole science.
Yeah, and honestly, I can't even speak to it because I don't know anything about the rubber compound. Because if you just rely on a really good
Right.
supplier who knows how to get it done, and then you just feed off of that. And so that's fortunately we have that,
Yeah.
and um, and then even just with the midsole cushioning as well, being able to know what foams to use because each foam has its pros, has its cons, has the cost. So it's a lot. It's a very, very dynamically. There's just so many different angles that you have to consider
There is.
um,
And that's
for the end product.
and it changes too depending on the company who's making the product and what their goal for that product is. You know, is their goal
Yeah,
to make a lifestyle shoe that you use for everyday wear and walking in? That their tree of people under them that are creating that product and making those decisions is going to be very different than the brand that is making the performance oriented shoe with disc golf torque, disc golf terrain, the disc golf, player
yeah,
in mind, and that house of specialties and individuals and products and rubbers and everything, that's going to be totally different from the next. And that's why it's like so important to know where your product is coming from, who's making it, and what's going into it. It's a totally different science to make a shoe for A versus making a shoe for B.
yeah. Well, kind of maybe bringing what we talked about before with performance minded factories that make performance footwear. It's really important to pair that with a brand that really cares about the little things, because oftentimes what I see is brands, because I've been doing this for a while, brands that really focus on a specific product, like for example disc golf performance shoes, and they really put in the effort to think of these little things that translate into better material choices, better constructions, whatever the case, to get to the end market.
Yeah.
They always perform better. So you pair that up with a performance footwear, manufacturer. It's always going to have. It's almost like an amplifying effect, I find.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, versus if you are a brand that started out making casual shoes, and then you're like, hey, let's just make a disc golf shoe for the fun of it, and then you introduce like a disc golf shoe. It's just not going to be the same because you're trying to spread your resources between the casual and the disc golf, and maybe not a lot of thought and research will go into this one because you're also doing this one as well. And so what I find is oftentimes brands that just really focus on just one sports or one activity and just really make a great shoe for it, it's always better. It's always better. I mean, I'm talking you up a little bit, but it is true.
Well, that's yeah. I mean, that's what we are, at our core, and that's who I am, and that's the purpose of this product, right? Is to serve a very specific market. But you're not saying anything that I think most people don't already know, because if you look at any sport, let's just say skateboarding, for instance, right? You have your brands that were founded through skate shoes, like Etnies, like Vans, and they focused their resources and technologies, and they developed new technologies like we have for disc golf. They developed and pioneered technologies for skateboarding, and they have sort of always led the industry, and they will continue to lead the industry because they're so focused on it, versus Nike when they introduced Nike SBs into skateboarding. They didn't do anything super revolutionary, right? They didn't like define an era. They just created a product that looked cool, that
good opportunity,
attracted,
it's a good opportunity,
certain look, and it was an opportunity move, right? But you're always going to have, in any sport you look at, running, snowboarding, whatever it might be, you're going to have your core brands that are really like if you want the performance brand, if you want the best technology, if you want to perform at your best in any given sport as an athlete, there's certain brands you're going to look at. And then versus if you are just want to versus if you want to just look cool and get into the sport, or maybe accept a paycheck from a sponsor that is trying to grow their team, then you might go that direction. But I mean, when it's evident, I think, in footwear history, that when you specialize in something, like you said, you find factories that are more accommodating, and you get the amplification effect because you're combining ideologies to achieve one specific outcome.
Basically, I would, if Nike ever came out with a disc golf shoe, like, I wouldn't pick it. And it's just because I know that you guys actually put a lot of thought and effort into making a good product. And oftentimes what I've seen is, the smaller brands that come out with a specific product, they always outperform, whether it's like Adidas or Nikes, that just want to take some of the market share, right? Because my dad, he's always said Nike's not an equipment company. They're a marketing company.
Well, Nike has also said they're a marketing company. It's no secret they spend most of their budget on marketing.
So that's the thing. So it's hard to compete against good marketing. The only way is to get the shoe on a person, and for them to feel the difference and see the difference. Maybe not see, but feel and perform the difference. When if you wear your shoes versus anybody else's, they will feel the performative differences. So that's the most important thing.
That's huge, and we get that reaction a lot when we're going to events and setting up and letting people try them on, because we don't have them in stores for people to try on. It's a hard thing to buy a pair of shoes when you don't know how they feel or perform. But it's like night and day. We've had people put them on and just go like, this is game changing, and that I think that's the real testament, like you said, just getting people into them.
That's the challenge. The challenge is, I've been doing this enough to know that marketing and sales is way harder than what we just talked about. Obviously it has its challenges and stuff, but trying to convince somebody to try you guys over what they already know, and
Yeah.
maybe the because you're competing against messaging, and it can be very challenging for smaller brands, right? And so but the main difference is once you put it on, and so focusing on that allows you to actually be like, hey, we actually make some pretty good stuff. And and like you said, people notice when they actually wear the shoes.
You're right. Yeah. That's such a good point. Is you are competing against messaging, and there was a time when, I mean, I got into this industry thinking the same thing. If you make something, if you design and make a great product, it will speak for itself. But we don't quite live in that era anymore. That might have been true once upon a time, but we are in an information overload world. You can't just make a good product. You have to compete in the marketing and messaging space, or nobody will see it, because we're so overrun. Our messaging and our feeds are just so inundated with information from everybody trying to compete for the same space, that if you can't budget and lock down that space, you might make the best shoe in the world, but people will never know about it. And so it's a tough it's a tough competition it's a tough game to play for small brands, but that's why we're really excited to be touring, because at that point you're not competing against the messaging. The proof is in the pudding, like they say, and
you're actually there.
You're there.
You try put the shoe give it a shot.
And then it's game over. Then it sells itself. But getting it on the customer is the tough part.
Yeah, I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody about kind of influencers and how they've really changed the marketing game in that sense, and how if you really break down the kind of the psychology of what influencers are doing, it's a word of mouth at the end of the day. It's because you're
just
more
who
likely
has the bigger
to
mouth.
Trust. Yeah, exactly. But we're more likely to trust a review or an insight from an individual that we either know, intimately, whether it's like a friend or a family, or someone that we feel we can trust. And it's much different than trusting advertising from a company, because that's not necessarily an individual. So trusting that, word of mouth through their messaging and stuff, that's not as powerful as an influencer that you just love.
Right.
And
Speaking
what
to
they
it
say, because they're a human being. Because it's like, I kind of see you as, maybe if I ever met you, like, I feel like we'd be good friends. And so that word of mouth, marketing is very powerful. And so the messaging is competing against that is very difficult nowadays, because Instagram is so highly used, TikTok and all that stuff, and companies are really leveraging that. So it's very difficult. That's what I was saying about competing against messaging, is that it's if you don't have the money for it, you can't really outcompete that. Because they have millions of dollars to allocate to that.
Right.
And so what you're doing with the touring and really getting out there and putting on people's feet, you might be producing like this wave of natural word of mouth that actual people are like, I'm wearing these and these are just killer. They actually, the product itself is what it is. It's so much better than anything I've tried. So like, hopefully, fingers crossed for you guys, because you guys deserve it for sure.
Well, thanks, man. It's been a fun journey, and again, I just appreciate having you on here and having your insight and being able to speak to it from a manufacturing level and seeing, how far we've evolved. And I've told you throughout the year how excited I am to be working with you, how much I value your partnership, and what your team has already brought to the product just in one manufacturing run together is just astronomical. Like, just so excited.
Good.
The things that you guys have found and been able to produce for us is hands over fist. It's incredible. And so again, just thank you for your time, thank you for being here, and thank you for being a part of our our journey. It's an exciting one, and I love what we're doing. Our community loves what we're doing, and we've only just scratched the surface
Yeah.
of what we're capable of. So
Yeah, I'm excited to be part of it too. I mean, I shared with you a few times with my excitement of hearing you going on tour for like the next 9 months, following the majors, and really just getting out there into the community. I mean, I'm excited to hear what's going to happen at the end of 9 months, but I can only see it being positive, and hopefully people start to realize that you guys are making the best disc golf shoes, because I feel that way. I definitely feel that way.
yeah, well, you are part of it. You are making the best disc golf shoe for us, so you
No,
know better than anybody.
it starts with the concept, and that's from me. I'm just copying the recipe. It's not.
Yeah,
And I'm just
well,
making sure that the recipe turns out the way that it needs to every time. That's all. I'm
well,
the
I
sous chef
appreciate it.
too.
You're definitely
Yeah.
underselling what you're doing, what you've done for us, and it's a partnership, and it takes a village, as we see on screen. So
Yeah.
thank you so
Yeah.
much. I've taken enough of your time, and again, just excited to be here, and I appreciate everything you've done, man.
Yeah, man. Mutual. Very mutual.
All right, David, you have a good one.
Yeah, you too, man.
All right, bye.
Bye.